Digital nomadism is growing every year, and it looks like it's here to stay. But what if you don't want to join the crowds of digital nomads in the hotspots like Bali, Thailand, Mexico? What if you're looking for underrated hidden gems that still offer a low cost of living but are still authentic, where you can still experience the culture that don't seem like a digital nomad resort? Well, there is one region in Europe that offers all that. It has beautiful nature, thousands of years of history and culture, and a very affordable cost of living: the Balkans. And within that region, today, I am going to introduce Hungary to you. Hungary, and particularly its capital of Budapest, has a growing digital nomad community. The internet connection is one of the fastest in the world, and the country has centuries of history to look back on. Not to mention beautiful castles and breathtaking landscapes. Plus, it is in the heart of Europe, allowing you to easily and cheaply continue your travels on the European continent. Hungary also has a Digital Nomad Visa that will allow those who prefer to slow mad and change destinations less frequently, but instead submerge themselves in a culture to do so. So let's take a closer look at Hungary, the things that it offers in terms of digital nomad infrastructure, the things that you need to be able to live your lifestyle. Internet, accommodation, cost of living, where to meet other digital nomads, and of course all the tourist attractions that you shouldn't miss. And last but not least, of course, the visa options. As always, I have linked the chapters down below so you can jump back and forward in the video as you desire, and I've also linked travel resources to tours, accommodations, and so on down there. Hungary is a Central European country that shares borders with Austria, Slovakia, Ukraine, Romania, Serbia, Croatia, and Slovenia. Its capital is Budapest, also known as the Pearl by the Danube River. And while not by the coast, it features Central Europe's biggest lake, Lake Balaton, which is only 80 kilometers or 50 miles outside of Budapest. Not to mention that it is divided into 32 wine-growing regions, where you can tour vineyards and learn more about the process of wine production. Hungary has a super interesting, rich history that distinguishes it from its surrounding neighbors, both culturally and linguistically. It was once part of the very mighty Austro-Hungarian Empire, together with Austria, and run by the Habsburg dynasty. Back then, it was actually the second largest country in Europe after the Russian Empire, and invaded quite a few of its now neighbors before it was defeated and dissolved after World War I in 1918, after having allied with the Germans. This also led Hungary to lose a big part of its territories in 1920. However, many reminders of this era, particularly in form of beautiful architecture in cities and fairy tale-like castles on the countryside, can still be admired today. Long before that, Hungary was occupied by the Celts and the Romans. They too have left their mark on the country, with the Romans having left behind a number of very nice Roman baths that you can still enjoy today. Of course, there is much more to Hungary's history than these few pointers that I could just give you. Hungary's history goes back over 1,000 years, and it's hard to fit all of that into a quick video. But if you know me, or if you've been following me for a while, you know that I very much believe into understanding at least a little bit of a country's history when you travel there, to understand its people and make a closer connection to them. The national language of Hungary is Hungarian, or Magyar as the Hungarians itself call it. And Hungarian is, other than the other languages in the region, of Finno-Ugric descent, because the first people who came to Hungary came from Siberia. Now, Finno-Ugric languages are very, very different from potentially anything you've heard before. They are the same language family as Finnish and Estonia. And as somebody who, with very little success, has tried to learn Finnish for about 7 years when I lived there, let me tell you, you probably won't understand a bit. It is close to impossible to learn this language within just a few weeks or months of staying there. So don't feel bad about not understanding anything. Use Google Translate and your hands and feet. But rest assured that at least in the bigger cities and amongst the younger generation, you should be able to be understood in English. Hungary is part of both the EU and the Schengen zone, so keep that in mind, particularly if you travel on a tourist visa. If you enter on the Digital Nomad Visa, this means that you have access to the Schengen zone. Check out the video above for a more in-depth explanation of the Schengen zone. It is, however, not yet part of the Eurozone and instead has its own currency, the Hungarian forint, with $1 currently translating to 379 forint. When it comes to modern digital nomad infrastructure, however, Hungary is a great choice. It is, for example, rated the country with the fastest internet speed in Central Europe and ranks in the top 20 countries with the fastest internet speed worldwide. You will also be able to find plenty of co-working spaces in many of the bigger cities, such as Budapest, Pecs, or Sopron. Here, you will be able to work productively and connect with other digital nomads. Hungary has a total of 6 international airports, with the one in Budapest being the one where most tourists arrive. To travel across the country, a rental car is a great way to be flexible and stop wherever your heart desires. Another great way to see plenty of the country and even get some work done is to take the train. As usual, I will link everything you need to plan your trip to Hungary and the activities I talk about in the travel resource section in the video description. Taking the train in Hungary is inexpensive and you can travel through some truly beautiful landscapes. Traveling by train is even an inexpensive way to go to some of the neighboring countries. Once you're in Europe, and particularly when traveling within the Schengen zone, trains are a very smooth and cheap way to move from country to country. The biggest cities also have an inexpensive public transport system, though with the exception of Budapest, the majority of these cities are quite walkable. Even in Budapest, you will be able to reach a lot of the things on foot if you choose to stay in the city center. When it comes to finding a place to stay, Hungary offers accommodation options for every taste and budget. Inexpensive hostels, full-service hotels, the privacy of your own Airbnb, and a couple of co-living spaces that offer you the chance to live and connect with other digital nomads. Let's also take a quick look at cost of living. As always, my numbers come from Numbeo, which is a crowdsourced platform, and I feel therefore it is most reliable. And I have translated all the prices to US dollars because I think that is a very relatable currency for almost everybody watching. An inexpensive meal in a restaurant will cost you $6.81. A cappuccino will cost you $1.65. A monthly bus pass will cost you $25. Taxi starting tariff is $2.36, and you will pay $1.05 for 1 kilometer. 1 hour waiting in traffic in a cab will cost you $12.58. And utilities for a 85 square meter apartment will cost you $137 per month. Internet will cost you $13 per month, and a 1-bedroom apartment in the city center will cost you $413 per month. Whereas a 1-bedroom apartment outside of the city center will cost you $315 per month. Next, let's see which places are good for you to set up your home base. First on the list, the capital, Budapest. Budapest is not only the capital, it is also by far the biggest city. Actually, Budapest used to be 2 different cities, Buda and Pest. But in 1867, Austria and Hungary, after quite a few disputes, joined together as 2 semi-independent powers in the Austro-Hungarian Empire. Mostly because Austria was afraid of losing even more of its territory if Hungary kept striving for independence. So in 1873, Buda and Pest were united to Budapest to create a counterpart to Vienna, thus making it the second biggest city in the empire. Still to this day, the different parts of the city are often referred to separately. The west side is Buda and the east side is Pest. In Pest, you will find the main tourist attractions, which makes it a good area for digital nomads to set up camp and be close to everything they need. Buda, on the other hand, is a quieter and more residential area. It is a good option if you don't want to be in the middle of everything, but you might have a harder time connecting with other digital nomads. Budapest is a great place to start your digital nomad life in Hungary, since it has all the necessary infrastructure in terms of internet, accommodation and public transport, as well as a growing digital nomad community. It is also quite walkable if you find accommodation close to the center. The city has so much to discover, with many remnants of its turbulent history waiting to be explored. The Hungarian Parliament building, for example, is the largest building in Hungary and was built as a clear visual counterpart and statement to the buildings in Vienna. Not too far from the Parliament, you will find another popular landmark of the city, the St. Stephen's Basilica. Apparently, it was built at the same height as the Parliament to symbolize the equal power between church and state. It has a beautifully decorated gold-plated interior with exquisite marble carvings to be admired. And it holds maybe one of the country's most important relics. The hand of St. Stephen, the first king of Hungary. Yep, the real hand. Another very impressive building is the Széchenyi thermal bath, which also is the biggest medicinal bath in Europe. Check the description for links to many of the activities covered in this video. Here, warm water rich in minerals is pumped up from 2 thermal springs, offering a very relaxing experience. You will also find spa facilities, steam rooms and saunas here. Even going out has a historic flair in Budapest. One of the main attractions in that regard are the so-called ruin bars. These are bars that have moved into buildings that have been first destroyed and then abandoned after World War II. Now they are the place to be for local hipsters and tourists alike. A popular green space to escape the city bustle for a while is Margaret Island on the Danube River. If you prefer to live a more quiet life and don't want to be in the middle of the bustling city, maybe our second potential location for digital nomads is more for you. Pecs. Its architecture reminds distinctly of the Roman and Ottomans that have settled here for a while. But it of course also has the modern infrastructure you will need for a location-independent lifestyle, though it is a rather small and quiet town. Choosing a co-working space, such as the Coho co-working house, might be a good option to get into contact with more people in an otherwise quieter town. But because of that, Pecs might be a good location for nomads that crave a quieter life and are looking for a good base to start excursions into the surrounding area. For example, to the Danube National Park, an absolute paradise for outdoor enthusiasts. Two of Pecs' most famous attractions are the Christian necropolis, which is the largest necropolis in Europe and dates back to the 4th century, and the old mosque of Esterhazy Castle, which today is a Roman Catholic church, thereby so clearly depicting the comings and goings of different cultures in the area. There are of course many other beautiful small towns in Hungary that you could set up a temporary base in. However, as communication in English gets more problematic the further away from bigger cities you go, and as I assume you are also looking for a way to connect with other expats and digital nomads, these are the two that I would recommend if you're looking for somewhere to set up a more permanent base in. Of course, that doesn't mean that you shouldn't be traveling around the country to explore it. So let's look at your options there. When it comes to exploring and experiencing the country, Hungary has so much to offer. Doesn't matter if you're into water sports, if you are an outdoor enthusiast that likes to go hiking, or if you would like to dive deeper into history and culture. Here are a couple of suggestions. For another hiking adventure in a very special landscape, head to Hortobagy National Park, a UNESCO World Heritage Site. The park preserves the cultural landscape of the Puszta, the Hungarian grasslands, and to this day, traditional forms of land use such as grazing, as well as domestic animals such as horses, cattle, and water buffalo can be observed here. They reflect the traditional culture and life of the area for the past 2 millennia. The next very special UNESCO World Heritage Site is located at the border with Slovakia, and not for claustrophobics. If you've watched a few of my videos, you now already know what kind of activity this might be. Exactly, caves. To be more precise, the caves of Aggtelek. These caves feature the largest stalagmites in Europe and are particularly important not only because of the amount, more than 1,100 of them, if you count the ones on the Slovenian side as well, but also because you can actually observe the change of climate conditions over a very long geological period here. You will find evidence of tropical and subtropical climate, as well as the remainders of the more glacial climate. To admire some recent historic buildings, there are 2 activities I can recommend. The first one is very popular, and it is a tour of the palace Esterhazy, close to the border with Austria. The palace is so enormous. It has 126 rooms and 22,000 books in the palace library. It is often referred to as the Versailles of Hungary. Another historic castle awaits you in Eger, though this one has a much different look. It is known for repelling the Turkish attack in 1552 during the siege of Eger. You can learn about the historic times by watching reenactors dressed in historic garments acting out live in the fortress, or take a guided tour, for example through the dungeon and the underground tunnels. Aside from the castle, Eger also features very beautiful architecture, for example a minaret left from when the Ottomans used to rule the area, and some really nice wineries in the surrounding area. Last but not least, before we move on to the visa details, one destination can't be missing. One of the most popular recreational areas in the country and Central Europe's biggest freshwater lake, Lake Balaton. Here you can hike, swim, relax, enjoy water sports and more. A good stop in the area is the little town of Tihany, with its Benedictine abbey that is almost 1,000 years old. Since it is such a popular destination, however, it gets quite crowded during summer. Now that we've talked about some of the beautiful things that you can do in Hungary, let's talk about how to stay there. If you want to stay for less than 90 days, the easiest option is a tourist visa. If you are from Canada, the US, or the majority of European countries, you can probably arrive without a visa. Other passport holders might either get a visa on arrival or have to go through an embassy. For longer stays, Hungary offers a digital nomad visa called the White Card. Be aware though that if you stay in Hungary for more than 183 days, you will automatically become a tax resident. In order to attain the White Card, you will have to be a digital nomad. You will have to earn a minimum of 2,000 euros a month, which actually makes it one of the cheaper, more attainable visas out there. Have a valid passport, of course, fill in the visa application form, 2 passport-sized photos, health insurance, and proof of accommodation. You will have to apply for the Digital Nomad Visa at an Hungarian embassy. Once the visa has been approved, you can then enter Hungary and get the White Card, as in your actual residency card in Hungary. Unfortunately, unlike many other digital nomad visas, Hungary does not allow you to take family members with you. If that is something that is important to you, check out the playlist that I made where I'm listing all the digital nomad visas that allow you to do so. You will, however, also be allowed to extend the visa, and the process all in all for you to get your answer is 1 month. If you would actually like to travel to the area with your family, why not check out my latest video about Romania up here and its visa procedures. And if you're interested in the area, stay tuned for the upcoming Digital Nomad Destination Guide to Montenegro. Now, thank you so much for your time. Go explore this beautiful world of ours for yourself, and I'll see you here in the next one. Bye bye.